Hello and welcome back to GeekVerse Sidequest, your weekly stop for video game news, reviews, and more here on the GeekVerse Podcast Network. I'm the Battle Network, Dylan Muss, and today I'm joined by the Mighty Podcast. Were you supposed to try and say the Mighty Podcaster? Or
Yes, I was, Dylan. Yes, I was. And that's gonna get fixed right now. But you know what happens when you're tired and you're a father of three and you're just got my learning ability. But yes, the Mighty Podcaster is what I was trying to get there. But
Well, welcome
with your
back.
help, we got there.
Yeah. Welcome back to Sidequest. Today we have a fun episode. I got to thank you also because people will notice on the feeds, where's Sidequest this week? Some stuff came up with me, and then the person I was supposed to have as a guest, some stuff came up with him. So, yeah, all sorts of delays, but I thank you for hopping on here kind of last minute to do this episode, and then what was supposed to be this week's episode is going to be next week, in theory, so that's kind of what's going on there. But thank you for last minute hopping on here to join me.
Oh yeah, no problem. Life always comes up and creates hiccups along the way, but I'm happy to tag in and whatnot. And yeah, and it's good timing because we had all this stuff this week as well too. So it's maybe it might be the last time we're talking about a certain thing, but it's good. You know.
Yes, so yeah, it is good timing because the Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase, how they branded this one, they throw all sorts of just random adjectives and nouns on these at this point. But that dropped yesterday. And that's about 25 minutes worth of announcements there, so we're going to break down that. And then we'll also talk about the games we've been playing most prominently is that Jane Foster, the Mighty Thor, is finally in Marvel's Avengers as of a couple days ago, or I guess just yesterday even.
Finally, everybody was on the top of the list of wanting Mighty Jane.
It's been a few months since any content dropped, so we have both checked her out and jumped in there again, so we'll talk about that. And then I don't know if you have any other games you want to talk about, but that's what's on the slate for today. So to get some plugs out of the way, make sure to join the GeekVerse Patreon to get episodes early and ad-free, as well as exclusive episodes. The Discord's always a fun place to hang out. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, all that good stuff. Our website, go check that out. Make sure to leave a review. This is something I kind of forget to shout out sometimes, but reviews go a long way in the search engine optimization, especially over on the Sidequest feed, which is a newer feed and doesn't have many reviews yet. So yeah, help us out. Go through a review. It goes a long way. Thank you to Taylor, who does the thumbnails in this episode. Kind of so sporadic that he doesn't have one ready for this episode, but we're shouting him out because he always crushes them when I put them out there in advance.
The macaroni maker, right?
Yeah,
As
exactly.
we talked about, yeah.
Thank you to Amanda, who does the music for the show. And yeah, other casts going on the feeds right now. Like I said, next week's episode of Sidequest should be kind of our top 10 underrated game announcements from June. There's a lot of these showcases, but there's also a lot of underrated stuff that was announced in the month, so we'll talk about that. We got Ms. Marvel reviews popping. We have our 7-year anniversary cast where we do questions, so send your questions into us, whether that's on Patreon, Discord, in a review, wherever you want to put the question, we'll find it.
YouTube randomly, it doesn't matter, we'll find it.
Tyler Briggs is going to join me for an Out of Mana episode, so that'll be fun to have him back on the podcast. You guys can hear what he's been up to. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Follow Travis on Twitter. It's Travis B. Snell, right? There's a B in there.
Yeah, I check every few months. Every few months I check at Travis Snell, who hasn't tweeted in about 4 years, know. So, but I'm hoping one day they do a mass swipe of Twitter and I can finally get that Travis Snell. But yeah, no, got the B in there for the middle name. What's the middle name? I don't know. You have to guess it.
Can I ask that as a question for our 7-year anniversary?
Exactly. What's everyone's middle name?
Yeah,
well, actually, you know what? I should put that as an addendum because I don't think I know everybody's middle name, to be honest. So because you don't use them that much, right?
We could try and guess each other's. Yeah.
And I feel like I've heard middle names, but the problem is sometimes people do middle names as like a joke. They'll be like Travis Balthazar Snail, but it's like that's not my real name, Balthazar.
Right.
You know, so it's like
it's a great name though.
Yeah, so someone
I've met one Balthazar in my life, and he was the coolest person I've ever met. So it's a good name.
Because I feel like somebody could have said your middle name at like a party at the Custard Dome, but I would have thought maybe it's a joke and whatnot. For some reason, maybe I will say this. I feel like your middle name is also could be a first name.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, there you go. Is it Cole? No, okay. For some reason, I thought it was Cole. Never mind. So, alas, we move on.
It was a good guess. Yeah, my parents were big Infamous fans, so they named me after the character from the famous PS3 title.
They're time travelers too. They played the game, went back, got to name them after that. When's Infamous coming back? You know why has that not been around? I know they're busy, but like, come on, some studio has to make it Infamous about now. You know.
I agree, but that's not what we're talking about today. Let's get right into it. Let's talk about some of the game. Well, I don't know if you have anything. Is there anything other than Marvel's Avengers that you want to shout out that you've been playing recently?
No, like other than old stuff, no. Like I think we told us before, Cass, that I gotta jump back into Strikers because that season started, and I imagine it's just that you get ranked and whatnot. But I wanted to. It's just got busy. Haven't got to play with Elden Ring in a couple weeks, so I'm due for that. But what I've been doing is, again, it's an older game, but me and Emily got the vibe to jump into Super Mario Party back again. So we did a couple nights of those and trying that now and everything, and it's good because I told her, it's a dangerous relationships tactic, but I told her, I said, I'm not taking it easy. I'm out for blood. Like sometimes we'll make deals like, oh, I won't steal from you. This was no, and I beat her twice. Now one time, very very controversial. It was one of those like without the bonus stars and some stealing. It's like, should I have won? No, but the second time I clean house. So we have a kind of a tie right now that she had won 2 before and I'd won 2. So every once in a while, that's what we do. I feel like we just play a bunch of Mario Party, and then we're good for a little bit. But then you just have that just craving, like, oh, I want to get the Mario Party. And I'm still waiting every day. I'm waiting for that announcement of new maps, even if it's just 2. Because I still like all the maps we have.
At this point, man, it's been so long that. Like that was October when it came out, right? Like I just have to believe
those data mine leakers that found like something. But you could I think you could be right. But at the same time, when we talked about what was the one game that took so long to get online? It's just like, oh, it's here,
Well, that was the previous Mario Party. So,
yeah. So that's my hope, is that they just are randomly going to drop some stuff. I still like the maps. I'm happy with those, so that's good. But so that's still like one of my. I don't know if I would put it in my top 10 games as far as like a favorite game. I'm just so happy it exists because it's like I don't got to run it on the N64. It's nice and smooth. Just pop up in the Switch. And then I think the only thing is me and Taylor dabbled into the newest Call of Duty. They did. There's a new Rebirth map now, so we did that only once last week. So it's a lot bigger, but it's has like a graveyard now and stuff like that. It's a lot more close quarters. Now, I never played this much because I was not good at it, and you have mentioned this before. It felt a lot like Counter-Strike, some of the points of the match, where it's just like it's very boxed in, and it's lots of like buildings with lots of levels and lots of concrete stuff, but then there's just wide open stuff. So that's about it. I think we talked about some newscasts. I think maybe soon I might be picking up Corey. I know Taylor's picked it up, and just seeing him and other people talk about the Discord has made me want to. Because we talked about this last time I was on Sidequest, where I wanted to, but just because Strikers is out, I knew I wouldn't play it. But now that I'm not done playing with Strikers, but now that's like, okay, I'll come back to it every once in a while. It's not like that full week of playing. I definitely want to check it out, and I definitely got to make a decision because I've not beat Elden Ring. I'm not rushing to beat Elden Ring, but my goal is to try and beat that before we get into September, October-ish, because we got those 2 the 2 superhero games, and then even God of War we have, but I actually don't even know if that's a day one for me, because I loved that last game, but it's almost one I can wait for because I just know I kind of know what it's going to be. So that's where I am with gaming. Just a bunch of like dabbling in a bunch of stuff. I'm not narrowing down on one game right now. And then obviously Avengers, like we're going to talk about.
Yeah, I think for me, I'm just waiting until like the second half of July is when some more things like Stray, Live Alive are coming out, big Into the Breach update that I'm excited for. And then I feel like August is also kind of light, but then of course, like starting in September until the end of the year, it's just crazy the amount of stuff that's coming out. So that's pretty exciting. But yeah, the only thing I've been going back to now is Marvel's Avengers, which it has been a while when I was re-downloading it, getting all set up. It seems like the last time I played this was the 4th month of 2021. So about over a year at this point since I've touched the game.
Jeez Louise.
Which I'm trying to think, like that must have been around when Kate Bishop joined the game. Because then it was summer when Black Panther joined, and then December when Spidey came, and I hadn't tried out either of those characters before, so I think that kind of tracks for.
Because I think we did some online play when Kate and Clint were out. I thought that was the last time we paired up. Yeah, just like a one night, but still it was like, oh, we'll try out these characters for a little bit, So that tracks. I remember that.
Yeah, so we've both been jumping back in there. New character Jane Foster, the Mighty Thor is in there, and yeah, it is interesting because like the game is on Game Pass, so I thought about downloading it on the Series X, but I was like, okay, well, all my save data is on my PS4, so I'll probably do that version. And honestly, I feel like my first impression of jumping back in there was like, man, this game is still super buggy. Like it is crazy how many glitches I experienced in just like my first 10 minutes of play.
Oh yeah.
And I felt like graphically it looked better, like the environments, but then the frame rate was like so much worse, where it would running about like I feel like maybe 10, 15 frames a second, like in combat. It was kind of brutal. So at least from that side of it, I got to say, like I was not impressed with how many bugs still exist in the game. It still feels like it's in the first couple months of the game. So I thought that after a whole year that they would have smoothed out some of those things. So that was a bit disappointing to discover that. I'm guessing you're up on the PS5 now playing it, or I guess you were probably on PS5 when the game. I'm trying to think of.
I was on PS4,
here.
and then there was like you could get the transfer over. So I am playing the PS5 now, and yeah, luckily I don't think I had any technical bugs or anything like that. Speaking of bugs, I laughed at one of the things because it got updated in like the warning section. It's like whatever the spider phobia is, like you don't play this game because Wakanda introduced like spider robots, and like not that it's not a bad thing, but I just laughed like, oh okay, that's a thing there. But no, I luckily didn't have anything graphically this time, so I was spared, I guess. So
yeah. So what do you think of this new character? We've talked about this before, where it's kind of strange some of the characters they decide to add, where Kate Bishop's cool and all, but like you got Hawkeye in the game, so maybe we would want someone who's a bit different. And now we're seeing this too, where we already have Thor in the base roster, and you're throwing Jane Foster in there. So now that you've had a chance to play with her, how is it? Is this a fun new character that you think is a good pick to put in here?
Oh, that's a tough question. I think it's a good pick if it's 4 or 5 after this one. Like, I mean, like if there was more characters, I would not be opposed to Jane Foster being on the roster. But I think it's one of these things that I saw when this was announced, and I saw a lot of people go, "Oh, just another clone." And I think we had talked about this before, but I don't actually view that way with Cade and Clint. Now, the thing is, they do have similar move sets, and they have they're both ranged characters at some points, but they got different light attacks, they got different specials, they move different ways, one teleports, so I feel like there was enough difference of like, on the surface they look very similar, but they don't play that way. And we've talked about that before, where they fleshed out a lot of these characters and whatnot, right? And I feel like I'm not sure if you had a chance to play with Panther at all, but
I did, yeah.
Okay, yeah. So Panther, I really liked. He was kind of what he's almost like in Marvel Ultimate Alliance, where he's tanky, but he's very quick. I liked a lot of his side stuff. Spider-Man he was fine. Like I never played enough with him because there was nothing really story attached to him. So I agree with everybody. Like, the web swimming was kind of janky, but I wasn't expecting anything else. So with Mighty Thor, with Jane Foster, I didn't need her per se because what they had shown so far, and which was very little, wasn't really getting me going. I knew there wasn't giving me a story situation around it, and that's why I laugh. Like each character will have like their mission chain or their hero chain and stuff like that, and I forgot, because when I hadn't played this well, I forgot like, how do I go here, what is my mission? And it's still just like I'm sure the people that play it all the time, those 200 that are still playing all the time, like know it off by heart. But I still find like even the menu mission selecting is not the cleanest, not the smoothest, and things like that. A lot of
it has changed too, so it's like you're kind of having to relearn it as well, which isn't fun.
Well, I imagine for you, like the character menu changed, like that whole, and that's which I actually liked it. It was streamlined, but the mission one, I was like, okay, how do I select this? And finally, I found that mission, or that, I don't know, it's like a log where it has all the missions uncompleted, right? And it's usually like the heroes change and Omega events and everything. And I found hers, and lots of times it'll be like, hey, this is Jane Foster, a blurb, this is what you have to do with her, and then there's like a checkbox of like 3 or 4 things you got to do. Her, and maybe I could be wrong because I didn't do this, I didn't care, but her one blurb was go talk to Mjolnir on the ship. And that was it. That was the only thing there. And I was like, this is just shows how much they're putting into this. And that's what kind of Jane Foster felt. Everybody that had that complaint about, oh, they're just making clones, this felt like it. Like she feels like a little quicker than Thor, but really she flies and has the same flying attack. She has the same like hold square and it spins your hammer, the same kind of power ups. The special moves are different, but they're just like kind of variations. Like Thor will have this thing where he throws out lightning, and she kind of has that, but it's in a different way. Like there's just small variations, and that's why I started to look at it. I was like, okay, I went back and forth, look at the skill tree of Thor and look at the skill tree of her, and the characters are similar. Like they all have like a whole square and whatnot, right? But the problem is all her moves, not all, but I'd say a lot of moves, more than you'd like, are a lot like Thor. So I played a few hours, did a few missions. Again, if it would have been like Thor's on the game and she's not, and she was there, I'd like it enough, because Thor, I remember when we played with him initially, I was not a fan, but I grew to quite like the character. It wasn't one of my mains, but I had fun with him, and I think I could have had fun with her, but it just feels unfortunately kind of lazy. Now, here's the thing. I don't know if that's the case if this game would have been successful, if they could have fleshed out this character more, and this is just like, we got to get her out. But no story stuff or nothing really exciting to get me in there. And the character feels like I kind of been there, done that, other than they still want me to spend like $15 on skins, which is still, again, I don't, even for the
none of
sale.
her skins really did much for me. I got to be honest.
The only,
I didn't feel like none of them were really compelling me to.
No.
I mean, not that I was going to spend more money anyway, but none of hers really stood out to me.
The only one I want is the legendary one from the comics, where it's like the silver helmet. That's kind of like what she looks like in the movies coming up here. But other than that, no. And even then, it was like 7 or 8. Like lots of these other heroes have a plethora of costumes you can go buy, spend. I'm sure they might add some more, but this feels very much like it is. We've talked about many times where we are nearing the end of this cycle, maybe of completion, and this was just like a night before you got to get your homework done, and here it is, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm feeling very similar. I wonder if there was maybe a better route to go in here where if they wanted to add characters that were very similar, I almost would have been more happy if they just made them a straight up clone where you could like use the exact same models and all that stuff and just get a new voice actor in there and like just essentially overlay this new character over the old one, because I don't know, to me, like waiting this long for a character like this who feels like, okay, I can already kind of do this in the game, doesn't feel like too much new. It's definitely deflating, especially because it's been so long since there has been like a new character added. December, which is several months ago, and there hasn't been any, as far as I can tell, like new content added in that time. So it's a long time to wait for a character that is kind of underwhelming. I think she is fun, but yeah, it's just like it's not enough that like I played last night, checked her out, and I'm like, no reason for me to go back, especially because what you mentioned of no story content there. So I wonder, like, that would have been cool if they did more of that kind of idea of just making a straight up clone where you would think that character, if they did that, like they could pump them out much quicker. Like they're a War Machine costume for Iron Man, and it's just like the same thing, a new voice, different look, and that way you can like play as a new character. But then in the meantime, like since they could spend like more development time on making a fully fleshed out new character design, they ideally get a few more characters in there. That could be a way to beef up their roster a little bit. So I almost wish they went that route with this character and then had someone else in there as well. But I also haven't, like I said, I haven't played in a while, so Black Panther and Spider-Man were new to me as well. I really like Black Panther, which was not surprising to me because I think out of the like whatever it is 50 characters in Ultimate Alliance 3, Black Panther was my favorite. And then like I think Blade, when he released, maybe took over as like the number one slot, but I loved Black Panther. He's so much fun, and that's like a pretty simple game, and I mean even here like I'm level 1, so I don't have all the skills and stuff unlocked, but even just the basic combos and like the kind of throwing stars, I don't even know what they are, just like these purple needles almost that he throws out. I really like that because it's just very fast, kind of fits with his what is typically like a very quick moveset style. So I really liked him. And yeah, Spider-Man's a weird one, right? Because we're just so used to the feel of Spider-Man from the Insomniac games, and so he just feels a little bit different and a little bit less clean. The movement doesn't feel quite as good in terms of like, I don't know. I think it could feel good if you're better at it, but that's what was something nice about the Insomniac games is even if you kind of sucked at controlling the character, it could still flow pretty nicely for someone who just picked up the game for the first time. So maybe that happens here, but didn't spend enough time with him to really figure it out. But I got to say, Black Panther has a lot of really sick costumes. Like, if I was more into the game, I definitely could have seen myself like putting some more money into it and getting a couple of those. Since I'm probably not going to go back to this game much unless there is another new character and just check it out for an evening. I don't see myself doing that, but like there is some really sweet ones in there. And Spidey has some as well. Not as many as I would have liked, but he has a couple cool ones in there, I felt.
And it's so tough because especially with Spidey, like it came after Spider-Man 4 because not only controls, but just like they just aced those costumes in that game, and
so many,
and any costume that was the big ones like Miles or Venom, they just said like, oh, you'll get those eventually. We just didn't want to do those without story reasons. So it's like they did like Ghost Rider, Bagman, like all these things where it's like there were some cool ones in here, but it's just kind of like they took the thunder out of any idea of having that. And again, if this game was big, I imagine having Spider-Man Sony exclusive, that would have felt big, but it kind of came and went. It's like, oh yeah, Spider-Man's here. Same thing as this side. It went so fast from knowing nothing to we got a war table. It was like we have this image of Jane, we have this comic book teaser, which was it was super strange because that came out a week before the War Table, and the War Table was just like she's gonna be live. Either was it the next day or was it the same day that they did the War?
I think it was something like that. Yeah.
And that was strange because when they released, it was very much like a comic book art type of teaser. And everyone's like, oh, well, like, why wouldn't you release actual footage? You're like, don't worry, more's to come. But like the way they released it made it feel like, oh, they have not much to show, so this is to hold us over. But it was really like, no, the next week she's already here. So again, it just felt like just kind of a dump. It felt like there was no even hype for that. Not that there would have been not much hype for this, but I just feel like it was a quick like, oh yeah, you guys know Jane? Well, she's coming. Yeah, she's here in 2 weeks, and it's over. And strange kind of release.
I think it's just that there's not enough people over at the studio working on this game anymore, so they just like don't have the manpower to do some of these things. As I imagine, just like day by day, week by week, they're just pulling more people off this game, putting them on their next project. So kind of unfortunate, but that's just the way it goes. And in terms of some of the other new stuff, I was excited to check out a couple of the new areas. Like when Hawkeye dropped, it had like the Imperfect Future, whatever it's called,
Mastro and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I feel like I maybe checked out a couple of those areas when he came out, but it was so long ago I can barely remember. But Wakanda was new, and it's tricky because a lot of the stuff in here on the War Table is like level locked out, where it's like this is for level 120 plus. I'm out here trying these new characters, so I'm level 1, so I can't go to these areas. So it's too bad because like I want to go check out these areas, but like I'm also here to check out these new characters. I don't want to just grind out my Black Widow again. But even I feel like my Black Widow is super underleveled for some of these things too. So I feel like I could only check out one of the Wakanda areas, and I was really let down. Like it just felt the exact same as the Pacific Northwest. It was just like jungly areas, and it didn't really feel like any different than that other forest that we got in. Like from the Wakanda stuff that you've played, do you ever go into like a city area?
Kind of, yeah. Some boss battles where it's like it's being taken over by Claw and stuff like that. You're doing some run around. I don't think it's as, it sounds funny, like not as vast as Marvel Ultimate Alliance, like as deep as that. But there's some moments where like the actual base, you're going into a Wakanda, and it feels very similar like the MCU setup where Shuri is and stuff. Not similar as far as like identical looking, but just the idea of this big base and stuff like that.
Yeah, so I was hoping for more of that, and I'm guessing you did that when you went through the Black Panther like story mission.
Yeah.
So they probably take you through like the main hits, check out these cool areas. So maybe I could go do that to see it, but I did like the addition of the spiders, because that was one of the criticisms that I think we both had when we did our review for this game, was that, man, like there's just not a lot of variety in the enemy types here. One more boss battles too, and so I feel like the spiders they're a fun addition. I don't think it didn't seem like there's too much more than that. Like it was just kind of spiders. I didn't see any other kinds of new enemy types.
Pretty much. I think there's enemy types as far as maybe they have some different like coloring and stuff like that, but that's about it.
I haven't seen any new boss fights either, so I don't know if there's any new villains in there, which also was a very, very low number at launch.
I know you fought Claw in the Black Panther one, but I don't know if he got put into that villain rotation of whatever that that bad guy, like, fight and get some points, whatever that is, you know?
Yeah. So yeah, that's Marvel's Avengers in June of 2022. I feel like we've just taken a couple baby steps, and I haven't even played this game in well over a year, and it just, I don't know, it doesn't feel like, they've reinvented this game, and it sounds like at this point that's not going to happen. They just didn't, they haven't made enough money from it to continue it going. So what do you think? Do we see another character? I know there's been talks of like She-Hulk, and I mean, there was long lists of planned or leaked or data mined characters.
Yeah.
I don't think those are reliable lists anymore. Maybe in terms of like who they intended to add, but not necessarily that they're happening at this point. But it sounds like maybe She-Hulk would be the highest one on the list of like, if they are to do another character, that would maybe be the one. But what do you think? Do you think we get any more characters at this point?
Well, I think last time we talked about this, and this was kind of a little bit before they announced Jane, I was like, one more, and then they should be done. And I feel like I'm that kind of route. I've heard those She-Hulk rumblings too. Again, that makes sense because they'll probably use a lot of the Hulk's models for that, and I think it'll be very similar. You got the show coming out, so maybe that was their idea at one point, to try and time these with some of the MCU shows, even though they're not conjoined with it.
They got it correctly once.
Yeah, exactly. A week before you got Mighty Thor, you could play her, and then you got the movie next week, so if you're enjoying it. But no, I think that It's funny too because when you're talking about like the baby steps, where when I booted this up at the war table, I imagine I'm supposed to, because I never finished the Hawkeye one, the Kate one, never even did the like Spider-Man mission chain. I'm sure at some point in there you like met and unlocked Nick Fury or he came to the base, but it was just so funny when you start this. He's like, "It's good to be back. Lots of change." I'm just like, it just feels like you are jumping into a comic arc and you have no idea and stuff. And that's what the weird thing is if you don't beat those missions, the game just progresses too. So it's not like, oh, you could find Nick Fury and have him in the helicarrier, but you got to do these missions. That's what could be cool. It's the same way, like the game's always been like that, right? Where if you accidentally went to go play online, it'd spoil the whole game for you. Remember back in the day with Avengers, where it shows you like Steve's alive and the new suits. So they've never really cared about that. And I think also in retrospect, that was maybe a bad idea. It's like, yeah, if you want Nick Fury to be on the helicarrier, sure, it's just a cutscene or something, but it's like, you got to go do these missions. But no, I can pretty much just wait 6 months and all that stuff unlocks for me. So I thought that was kind of strange. Yeah, I honestly think that we don't know what's happening with this because the people that work on this, they got bought, right? Square Enix, who specifically makes this, and did they get bought? Are they one that's still around? Like they're still by their own selves, the company?
Yeah, I mean they're under Square Enix. They.
What did Square Enix sell again? What was the one they sold then?
Oh yeah,
because it was the North American Studios or something, right? And I was wondering if it was in that. But the problem was it happened when all these things were getting bought out, and didn't it get bought by some weird like LexCorp corporation? I know it's not that, but like some sort of. So Dylan's looking up. He's typing away.
I can't even remember this.
There was some sort of Square Enix.
Oh yeah, so it was. Yeah, right? You're right. I totally forgot that this happened with Crystal Dynamics. But yeah, part of Square Enix sold us some stuff, including Eidos, and that going over to Embracer Group, the good old Embracer Group. Which I don't think has happened yet, but it's maybe that kind of thing where like it's gonna happen, but it hasn't officially gone through yet.
Okay, so
it's not under new management at this point. So, but yeah, I mean, even these articles I'm seeing here looks like it's just kind of in talks. So maybe I don't think it's necessarily happened quite yet.
Yeah. Plus, those things usually take a year to actually clear. But anyway, so the people that were working on this, they're not part of that buyout. If that were to go through, right? That's separate and everything like that.
Well, yeah, I think this studio would stay intact, and then depends what Embracer Group wants to do with it. But yeah, I mean, we know that they announced a new Tomb Raider, and then they were working on Perfect Dark, but who knows? I mean, they were a support studio for that, so I don't even know if that's still going on. But Tomb Raider is kind of what the main squad is working on now, and I feel like that makes sense because that's a bigger name, more reputable perhaps from them, even if the trilogy didn't end in the biggest way that they wanted it to. But that's probably what's going to happen next for them.
So if this purchase goes through, and I feel like if they're confident it is, I wonder if you could get She-Hulk, and I wonder the way you get her is just this team is sitting around doing nothing because they have to wait until this purchase goes through. Because let's say whether it goes through or not goes through, I would imagine that, okay, you're either still Square Enix or now you're with Embracer Group. You're going to start going and work on different projects. I imagine if they're with Embracer Group, they probably won't have the Avengers IP because it might be, Square might help pay for that, whatever it may be. So I think no matter what, which way they go, if they get bought or not, I feel like they will be done with it then. So maybe that's where we'll still get it is, well, we can't really start on anything big right now while this buyout's going. We'll just do little add-ons to Avengers and stuff like that. And so maybe that's how you get She-Hulk. But other than that, it's funny just because I searched Avengers and just even seeing like just the Google page. It's crazy how there's rumors of this game for so many years and there was such a build-up with the voice cast and big E3 reveal. And I'm looking at like just even the cover of the game and how it's just kind of like it's like a nothing game, unfortunately. It didn't really go the distance. But yeah, so maybe one more. But honestly, I would just say just kill and pull the plug and just say, you know what, we had a good run. Even if you're still working on She-Hulk, let those, leak concept arts of She-Hulk leak in a few years. Be like, oh, look, cool, what they would have been doing. But then no one would have played it. Like, I don't think it's worth the time. We checked it. We don't have it on the I couldn't find it on the other ones, but before the newscast the other day, we checked the Steam numbers, and for the last month, it was an average of 283 people. And that's some low stuff for a Marvel's Avengers, which Marvel is still, even after Endgame, a massive IP. There's still shows and everything. So I think it's just time to cut the cord, you had a fun time. Do a big blowout of those costumes, sell them all. They probably won't. They'll still charge us an arm and a leg, but sell them all off for like 90%, stuff like that. Get like whatever money you can, like stuff like that. But yeah, I just don't know what would be next other than She-Hulk, I guess. It's just kind of sad and kind of limping along.
Yeah, I think I'm happy to see this game get sunset at this point. Just for me, like we've talked about this from the very beginning, from our first reviews, like, wow, these character movesets are really good. All the characters feel good. Like even we like the feel of Jane Foster. It's just so similar to another character. So like, man, these characters are great. Yeah, maybe Spider-Man's a weird one just because we have another huge AAA Spider-Man game that has 2 iterations now. So we have seen like a better version of that. But these movesets, these characters, so great. It's just the levels and the structure of the game, not good. The gear, not that great. So it's just a letdown because there is so much potential here. It's just, it doesn't. It's not a cohesive whole. It's just got like 1 or 2 parts of the puzzle, and the rest is just missing or subpar. Yeah.
And now I just can't wait to see, because we don't know exactly what they are, but I just can't wait to see Gotham Knights and Squad, which both have like vibes of this, and it's like, I feel if they're close enough, the exact same thing's gonna happen to them, and it's just we're gonna have this like 3 to 4 years of video games that looked really cool, but when we got them, they're kind of all the same thing. But I'm gonna try them all like a sucker, But
yeah, well, I kind of like the trajectory of maybe these Marvel games aren't getting. I mean, the Spider-Man games do get a lot of hype and stuff behind them, but we both loved Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. And, we got some DLC drops that gave us like a year's worth of content afterwards. And then this game came out, and even if it's not the best, like we're still getting regular-ish updates to kind of come back. And then Midnight Suns is coming out in just a few months here. And I really hope that game does well, because I'd love to just jump in when there's new characters, new campaigns and stuff like that, and have another Marvel game to jump to and play with for a few years before the next one comes out, which... Spider-Man 2, Wolverine.
Wolverine!
Yeah.
I can't wait till we get that E3 Summer Games Fest, whatever it is. When we get that 10 to 15 minute showcase of the trailer, developers, maybe some gameplay. Like, I can't wait to see what that game is. I will
take a cinematic of just like, here's the story, because I just want to see what the setup is, because the gameplay. Insomniac's great, so I already know that's going to be amazing. So I'm just curious what the setting is and all that, and other characters and whatnot, but. Anyway, that's the Marvel stuff. Any other games you want to shout out here, or how about we? If not, how about we could jump into a quick ad break?
No, I'm good. That's everything I've been playing the past few weeks.
All right, let's take that ad break. We'll come back and talk about the Nintendo Direct. All right, so just a day ago, Nintendo Direct Mini Partner Showcase. I think I got those words in the right order. They haven't done one of these. I mean, they brand these directs as all sorts of things, but they haven't done a mini partner showcase in a while, though they have done them before. But I think this one kind of exceeded expectations in terms of just I feel like they put the mini wording in there to set your expectations very low. In the past is what they've done, but I feel like they showed off a lot of really cool stuff here. A lot of stuff coming out this year that's kind of maybe filling in the gaps of. If you're not that Splatoon person, you're not a Xenoblade Chronicles 3 person, which are the other big games coming out for the rest of the year, then here's some other stuff to check out on the indie side or just smaller AAA games, things like that. So I guess just in an overall sense, what did you think of this, considering that we didn't get that regular June 12th-ish Nintendo Direct that is like the big E3 showcase? We didn't get that this year. So do you feel like this, where does this compare in terms of that if you had to look at it that way?
Yeah, it's interesting because I feel like you're right that when it actually happened, people were positive on it and liked it. I think the lead up of it was, I think people liked it because their expectations got low, but I still think there was a sense of disappointment, not from this actual direct, but just a sense of everyone felt like we were going to get that big, type of E3 June 1. And I think it's like, this is good for what it is in its own secluded area, right? But then when you're like, oh, we didn't get that big one. So it makes me think that we may not get that big one for a little while, maybe even till next year, because maybe they're just going to ride out the year. Switch is still doing well. They got stuff, which we're going to talk about here, that's dropping. But I think it was it's so tough in this world, right? Because it was good to say it's a mini and it's also a partner showcase. So you get an idea of, obviously, there is a Mario game we're going to talk about, but you get an idea of, okay, you're not going to get like hopefully a new Donkey Kong or the Metroid, big reveal and stuff like that. Especially because, and this is where expectations suck, the day before Jeff Grubb put out this report that, Metroid Prime was ready to go, like that remake or remaster or whatever. And that's where it was like a day before the actual direct was announced. So everyone's like, oh man, when we get this next direct, or not that it was announced, but then when they gave the actual mini partnership title, that's when it was like, everyone's like, oh, you're getting Metroid. So this is going to be that big banger one we have all the time. Here we go. And then when it wasn't, I think there was a bit of disappointment. Yeah. So I watched it. I liked it. I think it's good that it's a nice brisk, here they spent time on some games, but never overstayed their welcome. The only one for me is you even shot yesterday where it's Monster Hunter, but that's not because that I think that's a smart thing to do. There's a big fan base for it. It's just that I'm not jumping onto that fan base right now. So I am curious to see what they do for the rest of the year if we do get one more. But I honestly could see something happen early January or late January, early February, that bigger one, because they got titles coming out. I don't think they need to push it. If they weren't going to drop it now, they don't need to. And maybe they'll do it also closer to Breath of the Wild too, when they get that a bit more confirmed and stuff. That might even get its own one. So I think it was an interesting kind of watching of the web, because the same thing, my last point is the date of the the Nintendo one had leaked. It was actually the 28th for a while, but again, when it leaked, it was not, oh, it's going to be a mini, it's going to be partner showcase. It was just, oh, Nintendo Direct's happening in June, and because of history, we assume, oh, it's going to show off all these new first party titles and stuff. So lots of it does have to do with the expectations of the interwebs.
Yeah, so going back to me and you did a predictions episode on what we were expecting to see from Nintendo, because at that point, this was at the start of June, or maybe it was the end of May even, we're okay, well, they're definitely do a direct.
Yeah.
What are we going to see there? And obviously we were kind of wrong on that, because even though they did this, it's different because of the mini partner showcase, not going to see that first party stuff. But even in that episode, my prediction was I feel whatever we get from Nintendo, I think it's going to be pretty low key. I don't think they're going to show too much. I think they already have so much coming out for the rest of the year in terms of big first party titles that I don't think they want to overshadow those things. And so this kind of works perfectly, actually. That
you hit the nail on the head.
Yeah,
there.
That it was mini, and they're kind of highlighting some stuff here. But yeah, the question is still up in the air for me of what do they do that classic September direct that they normally do, or something else in the fall? Because to me, there's a few things that stand out. One, if you go on Nintendo's website, they have their schedule, and it's they keep it very light. It just says, here's what they have right now. It's June, Strikers, Fire Emblem Warriors that just came out. July is Xenoblade Chronicles. September is Splatoon 3. Pokemon over there in November. And the only other thing they have on here that of 2022 is Bayonetta 3.
Yeah.
So they keep it very light. So I don't know if believing this Nintendo.com schedule thing is something to go off of, but I still feel that game was announced to be 2022. They're putting it on their website, so that makes sense that they want to show that off. The question is Bayonetta big enough that they do a direct, a Bayonetta direct? Here's 15 minutes of the game, comes out in a couple weeks or a month, whatever it is. But the other questions for me is that the Mario Kart DLC, those booster pass courses, I think it's about time they show off the next round of that. Mario Strikers DLC, I feel they're not going to wait long before they show you here's the next character coming out and when to expect that. So there's some other questions that are lingering. Now, those two things I just mentioned, I could easily see them tweeting that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
but it also is a great
DLC,
thing to put in your direct. So I still think there is some questions and a chance that there is a direct later on in this year for first party stuff. But I guess I could be persuaded either way. I'm not as certain that that's going to necessarily happen, just because I think there is still enough coming out for the rest of this year, especially with this direct mini that we just got.
Yeah, I think if it's a direct, it's kind of like what you just said almost for this one, where you expect it to be lighter. I would expect that where you could anchor it with Bayonetta and then have those little things, because you're right about the DLC. That could easily be a tweet of they promoted the opening weekend of Strikers where you could play a trial just through a tweet, so it's just
this was even the weird thing for me where I thought we'd definitely get a direct is because Fire Emblem Warriors 3 Hopes just came out last week, and I just felt well, of course they want to do one last big promotion thing for that. But then they were just dropping a ton of trailers for it on Twitter. So I was well, I feel like if they're doing that, there's no way they're doing like a regular Nintendo June Direct. And the one they did here, they had like in the montage, like this game's out now, go check it out. That was how they shouted it out. So I guess they deemed that Fire Emblem spin-off small enough to not need a Direct to showcase it. But yeah, there was some weird stuff like that too that threw me off a little bit.
Yeah, I think also with the September one, it would help if you do a bunch of these announcements in the June slot, and then September you're going to flesh it out a bit more and maybe be more specific about a date. If I don't think that's the case. We didn't get a lot of that here, so I don't think in September there's not much need other than maybe Bayonetta to kind of flesh it out and show everything. Like you could put a little direct together, but I think you'll maybe get 2 next year. Like I said, either one's going to reveal Breath of the Wild or they'll do a Breath of the Wild one by itself. And the good thing is like Breath of the Wild, I think that will come out early next year or first quarter. So they can kind of just like rest their laurels on that for a while and then worry about the rest of the year after, start promoting and stuff. They could make it all about Breath of the Wild too for that first chunk of the year.
And we'll almost certainly get another Pokemon Direct before this new generation comes out. So you can also look at it that way. That okay, if we do get a Bayonetta as well as Pokemon, there's 2 other Directs this year. Like that's kind of enough. Like I think they already got enough in their calendar to justify it. But now let's get into some of the specifics. I'm gonna skip some of these things that I don't think you or I would have too much to say on. If I skipped over something or there's something I didn't mention that you want to talk about, then of course bring it up. But yeah, the first one I wanted to show here is Nier Automata coming to the Switch. There's always a plethora of these in these directs. Like this game
finally
that's
here.
X years old is finally coming to the Switch. So this is coming out October 6th. They have a couple like exclusive costumes for this version, but more or less it's the Game of the Year edition. And I played through this game finally for the first time this year, and I loved it. I think it's an amazing game. It definitely worthy of all the praise that it got back in, I think, 2017 when it came out. So this is pretty cool. What's
2017? I thought I did not think it was that far away. I thought it was like
2018. Let me double check.
Okay, still,
it was a while ago.
It's pretty much a 5-year-old game, and here it is coming to Switch. And again, Switch sometimes has a different audience, so it's good. But it's just funny when you said that.
February 23rd, 2017.
Yeah, so
quite a while ago.
Early on in the year too of 2017. So.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of when like Breath of the Wild came out, so that's interesting. 5 years later, I think this is a good one to have on the Switch because it is kind of a grindy game at times. So to just, you don't always have to play it on the big screen if you're just gonna be fighting some foes, leveling up or something like that. But I have some concerns because there are points in this game when there are a fuck ton of enemies on screen and they're all doing stuff. So. And some of these boss fights are pretty wild. So I'm going to say that even though this game's old, 5 years old, I am worried for the frame rate. So maybe check some reviews before you pick this one up on the Switch because it might not be the best place to play it.
If it can't even handle Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, then I don't have good luck or don't have a good faith of this one having that luck there. So
yeah. I'm guessing you have not much to add on that. I don't think you've
No, I haven't, and I haven't with Monster Hunter, so no, not much on there. I just, I like the meme of Switch always bringing these games over, so you know what? Somebody's gonna buy it.
Yeah. Skipping along here, Super Bomberman R2. This is a remake or a new Bomberman game. It's so unclear for me these days. Everything's a remake or a remaster, but a new Bomberman game. Have you ever played any of the Bomberman games?
I feel like, and I don't even know if it's like your house, but I feel like it's only been a game that I've seen on the TV while I'm talking, and that's it. And I don't know if I've ever actually held it in my hands because I'm watching again this footage, but it always looks appealing. But no, and of course I know Super Bomberman, like the font and the colors are very, kind of. They pop a lot. Like you see it that whenever you saw that first cover of that guy, it's like okay, you kind of have the idea what the art style is, but no, never actually played one.
Yeah, I think I picked up the original game on the Wii Virtual Console or eShop, whatever it was, and it was fun. I also played this game called Playing with Fire. It was like a browser game back in the day that me and my friends were really into, which is pretty much just a Bomberman ripoff. So I like the I like this style of game, and I thought this one looked pretty solid. There's some fun stuff in there, like you have to build your own levels. To me, what looked really fun was some of the online elements of it, where it's not really a battle royale in terms of how many people you got there, but it's kind of that vibe where you have like a big team of people who are fighting like one super Bomberman person, I guess, who's trying to take you out, stuff like that. So I don't know. These games always look fun. It's coming out next year. I gotta see what the kind of price tag is on this one, but I think it looks like a lot of fun.
I can't believe that you skipped L'Oreal and the Laser Eyes, that murder game. The only thing I wanted to shout out, though, is because I laughed the first time when I watched it. I'm watching again. It's Maze of Deceptions, and it's the part where it says a murder mystery, but it has a cut of a guy pulling a gun. He pulls it like 3 or 4 times, and it keeps zooming in on the gun. Oh, yeah, Dylan's pulling it up. Yeah, it's at the very beginning there. And I liked like the art style, but hit play. And when I watched this, I was on my lunch break just laughing in like my little where I am cubicle. It comes right here. 1, 2, 3, murder, and then 4 right there. It was such a choice. That's all I have to add on that one, but I had to shut that out because like I got a really good laugh while watching that today.
I did write it in my notes, but when I was just reading through, I was like, I don't remember what this one is, so that's why I didn't bring it up. You're right. It does have a cool look to it. I think I got to see more. This is one where I'd want to hear like another gaming podcast when they've played it, be like, oh, you got to check this out. This is worth checking out because I don't think I want to be that one to do that discovery. I want to hear though if it is cool. I could see myself checking it out when it comes out next year as well. So shout out to Lorelei and the Laser Eyes. The next one though, this is what my nickname here is off of, and this is a Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection, which this kind of makes sense at Mega Man. They've been doing tons of these collections in the last few years, and this is one that these Battle Network games, which are kind of a spin-off, have never really got that treatment, and I don't think they've come back in any way. So it's pretty exciting. This has always been my Mega Man. I never really played.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, I never really played the 2D platformer ones, and when I have gone back and played them, later on in life, they just don't really do much for me. I'm just not a big fan of the movement of it. Maybe it's like the level design. I just don't really care that much. But the Battle Network games, I think I've played maybe 2 or 3 of them that I had back on the Game Boy Advance. I don't even know which ones. I had, because they're like, as this collection shows, there was like 10 games that came out in like a couple years or something like that. Like they were just spamming these games. So I've only played some of them, but I love them. They're so cool in terms of the combat style and the way you like build up these different. They're almost like decks. You're like building like a cartridge essentially of like what moves you could possibly get, and then it's a mixture of like, live action combat as well as kind of turn-based in terms of picking moves and things like this. It's really cool, and the way you interact with the world is essentially you're playing as a kid. You're not playing as Mega Man in this game. You're playing as this kid who essentially, like, in this very technology-heavy world where you can just like plug in to any sort of electronic thing, like your computer or I don't know, at the zoo, like they have like these little like electronic exhibit things. And so you just plug into that and then you go into that like virtual world as Mega Man, which is your character. And you kind of cruise around, you're fighting viruses, which are enemies. You're meeting up with your friends in these virtual worlds and traveling through the world. So the combination of like navigating the overworld and then navigating the virtual world is really cool. So I love these games. The 2 or 3 I've played, a lot of fun. Can't say the story is all that memorable, but I can remember a lot of the characters in terms of the design and like their personalities and stuff. So definitely games that have stuck with me over the years, and I'm very excited for this 10-game collection. So there's a lot for me to dig into there. Some nostalgia and a bunch of new stuff. So this is like a day one for me. I'm really excited to pick this one up. Yeah.
Well, one, I love that we're in this era of like the collections, right? Where we're throwing like 6 to 7 to 10 old games together, kind of brushing them off a little. And 2, I'm the complete opposite. I remember that some of the games I had Zelda, Mario, Duck Hunt, and I had Mega Man. I remember the cover because the Mega Man cover looked so sick and it looked like it was like a real life movie. I had never heard or played Battle Network in my life I think I'd heard of it, a little bit here and there, but then I had to look more into it once I saw it here, and then I'm happy that you talked about. But yeah, never seen this in my life as far as in person, so that's crazy. But obviously it has enough of a following that people are like Mega Man in general. I feel like obviously because he's an icon, gaming icon, kind of has following in different routes of the gaming world. So obviously there's enough that they feel that this is a good idea, and I'm sure it's going to sell well enough because those other collections I think have done good. So the log lines you gave me, that's there were some like fun, cool concepts in there. So
yeah, I'm trying to quickly look into like the timeline of these games, because I feel like it burned hot and fast. We're like a shit ton of them released in a short amount of time,
pumping them out,
and like I'm sure the quality on all of them is not there. I played like some of the earlier ones, so I'm not sure where it went down the line, because even they were kind of showing, they showed like quick snippets of these different games, and some of them had like a really weird looking art style that did not work for me. I like the more just like traditional pixel art looking ones. So it looks like the first one released in 2001. And if I go find this perhaps last one here, 2004. So like, holy shit, they released these 10 games. This is like after a quick Google search, so I might be wrong. Okay, maybe 2006. So, but either way, like within a 5-ish year period, releasing 10 games. So yeah, the quality. I mean, I don't know if it's the same studio working on all these games and whatnot, but that's a lot of games to release in a short amount of time. So I'm excited to dive into these.
Yeah, that's a lot of elbow grease right there. You know.
And yeah, it'll probably take me 10 years before I can beat all these games on the Switch. But I think this would be a good. I think it's coming to other consoles. But this is a good place to pick it up. Just play it on the go, because yeah, like I said, I used to play it on the Game Boy Advance, so it was a game I was playing on the go on like family trips and stuff like that. So yeah, it'll be fun to have Battle Network back. And I wonder if a lot of the time these remasters, remakes are released, and if they sell well, that's usually an indicator that okay, let's make a new one. So yeah, I'd be really curious to see what a new Mega Man Battle Network would look like, considering that these games came out like quite a while ago now, and they haven't really. I've seen a couple games that are kind of playing in the genre space, but there's so much going on here that I still feel like there's a lot that they could do with that formula.
Yeah, and you never know sometimes what's going to pop off as far as sales and interest, because sometimes there's been things that I thought, I think this audience is kind of dead, and it brings it back. So, and with Mega Man, I really don't know. Like, I'm not in the Mega Man community, so I don't know what they've really been dying for and wanting and things like that. So,
yeah. And then, yeah, there's like the classic features like, you listen to music and all that fun stuff.
Plug in.
Moving ahead to the Pac-Man remake. I forget what the exact full title of the name is.
Redo.
There you go.
Yeah.
What do you think about this?
Pac-Man. Oh, sorry. Repack. Which is, that's very close. So this used to be an old game then? This specific one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, this is a remake. This is a remake of some sort. Yeah.
Of some sort. Because when I saw this, I'm not a Pac-Man guy other than the classic arcade Mr. and Mrs. Pac-Man. I never ventured into these type of other games that they were clinging to try and save the franchise. This to me looked like every N64 GameCube platformer thrown into one. And I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. The fact that it's getting a remake or repack must at least be a good thing, because that means that maybe it's something that has have a lot of nostalgia for you to look back on. But it looked interesting enough, but it looked more in the way of like I would maybe play this on like a Games Pass one day if I'd gone through my entire library. Like now, I have not jumped into Pac-Man games, and I'm not going to now. I'm happy he's in Smash, and I'm happy that those old games exist. That's the extent of my Pac-Man stuff. But seeing this trailer, I was trying to gauge like what type of game this was, because they were showing a whole bunch of different type of genre things.
Yeah, I would say it looks like more in the kind of Mario 3D world sort of thing, where it's not these fully open world collectathon levels, but more somewhat openish, but more linear levels that you're going through. So it looks cool. I think to me the most intriguing thing about this is that like this is the version of Pac-Man that is in Smash, right? And he has the move, or if you do the dash attack, it's like the old school Pac-Man. But like that's cool to me, just because I wonder if you play this game, I'm sure you can see a lot of that move set, because they are usually pretty authentic with making those move sets. So I wonder if he has those same punches and kicks and all that.
Is that going to get you to purchase it? Huh?
It looks like fun. To me, it would really just come down to the price. If this was like a $20 remake or something, and people are like, "Oh yeah, this is actually worth checking out," I could see myself doing it. If it's up in there that $60-$80 range,
oh yeah,
I don't see how I could justify justify that one, because I mean, in terms of it looks more like a remaster.
Yes,
in terms of,
it does. Yeah,
it definitely looks like an old game. It looks like a Wii game. So
100%.
Yeah. So that's Pac-Man World Repack. I think I got the title there. The next game, this is a cute indie game called Blanc. First time I've seen this game is coming out in February 2023. This one looks great. This was like one of like the standout indie things of the show. Do you want me to pull this one up again, or do you remember?
Oh, I'm looking at it right here too. Yeah, because this one did stick out. Like two reasons of like, I wonder exactly what you do, but it just had like a strike. Like it's black and white, but it had like a very striking animation. I love like the chalkiness of like the grass or like the snow and stuff. So that's
very
where
like squiggly lines and all that
so
kind
it
of
stuck out in that sort of way. So
yeah, I like this. They're really highlighting that it's a very emotional story, but specifically that does not have any words. So I wonder how that hits, because that could be very hard to pull off. But I think depending on the price, I could definitely see myself picking this one up. I'm always in the market these days for fun, simple co-op experiences. It seems like a fun split screen like couch co-op game I can play with Muds. We're into these kinds of it seems like a very simple level design with very light puzzle elements to it. Like it's those kinds of games which I've played a lot of in my life. So it looks cute. It looks quite charming, and maybe it'll pull on the heartstrings in some way too. So I think this is a good standout for me. I'm excited for this one.
There you go.
Next up, I really want to hear your opinion on this. Return to Monkey Island, which I feel like whenever I listen to my other gaming podcasts, everyone's always raving about Monkey Island, and they're so excited for this. And I gotta say, when like the trailer is shown here, the art style is like doing nothing for me. And I know this game has a lot of fanfare, but I just don't think I'm being sold on it from seeing it. But do you have any nostalgia or anything with these previous Monkey Islands? And what do you think of this new one that's coming out?
No idea about the Monkey Islands. When I saw Keeley talk about it, at first I thought he was talking about Monkey Ball, and then I looked into it for like, no, it's not that. I'm the exact opposite, where I actually loved the art style. I love like the cartooniness. I actually loved the colors, because they had this great thing of like, there's a lot of bright colors, but it was like dark, like nice, like shaded and whatnot. There's a lot of, I think the other stuff, like if you look at some of the skulls and some of the characters, what it reminds me a lot of is stuff you'll see in New Orleans, as far as just like around the area and artwork and stuff. And Emma and I were a big fan of when we went there, so I really like that. I looked into it more, that the very first game was made by LucasArts back in the day, actually. So that was surprising. But yeah, I never heard. Yeah, just that right there. I guess also what it has is, I like it kind of has like a child's book kind of feeling to it, and so for me, it was actually working. I don't know if I would be, because I don't know if this is exclusive. I don't know what the game is, what you do, but there's a lot of,
I think it's a point and click adventure game.
Okay.
Which, or at least that's what the original was. So I think that's what you could expect here.
Yes, I don't think there's a place in my life made for that game. And again, it's not, I think, because they kind of are not close in culture, but sometimes some of their art styles, as far as like New Orleans and then like Spanish culture, but like it kind of gave me some Coco vibes as well. If you've ever seen that Pixar movie, like kind of some of the Day of the Dead stuff. But yeah, I liked it. But again, I don't know how much. I'd like it almost more if I could watch it. I don't know as far as a game if I need to play it, but I like Pirates, so it's some cool stuff. Like that skull, I like that. That was what reminded me of New Orleans right there. So yeah, I liked what I saw.
I see where you're coming from. I think for me it's the character designs I'm not a fan of, but I do like the world designs, and I do like the colors. Like that all works for me. It's just like the characters aren't doing it for me, I guess.
I can give you that. I think the one character I really like is that kind of like evil looking pirate guy who's like a skull. I think they almost could have done like that guy right there. He had the beard. I think they almost could have done a bit more of that with the other characters and made them even more cartoony or kind of unrealistic. But yeah, we're returning to Monkey Island this year, so.
And look at this. They still got the Lucasfilm. I wonder if that's just like the rights of it.
It must be, yeah, because I don't think they're making games anymore, so.
So yeah, that's sure to be a big one. I'm curious to hear or to see reviews of this, and if it is lives up to the hype that everyone has for it. I don't know if this is one where it's like, okay, you got to go back, you got to play the first.
No,
I don't know if there was more than one. I wonder if it's that kind of thing. In which case, I don't know if I'll have the time and bandwidth to go through the old ones to get into this one. But if it is just jump in and check out this great story, then I could see myself picking it up. So.
Yeah, it'd be like a download, if anything, for me. That'd be about it on a kind of a free one. I don't know purchasing wise, unless I just heard, hey, this is a game you have to play, which I don't know if Monkey Island or the Return of Monkey Island is going to be that. So
next up is a game that finally got a release date that I'm sure you're quite happy about.
Game of the show right here. Game of the show.
This is Mario, not Mario and Rabbids, Mario plus Rabbids, Sparks of Hope. The sequel coming out October 20th, so this is on your draft this year. So There was rumors of it getting kicked to next year, but it seems like if they're announcing it here, I feel like there's a pretty good chance that it comes out. Plus, they showed a ton of gameplay, so there's another maybe a good sign that it is ready to go for October here. I don't think you played the first game.
No.
And I know you're maybe partially hyped because it is on your list and you want just games to release so you can get those points. But
of course.
What did you think of the showcase here? Because obviously I don't think you're a Rabbids guy, but I know you're a big Mario fan. So where are you at with this one?
My hope is with the second one coming out, the first one, like, even though it's not like the Nintendo games where it stays at like that $60, $80. It has dropped more because
I bought
it is
this
like
game
a
for $20.
There you go. So, and I've never gone around to that. So at some point I want to, because they've always looked fun. This looks more, I'd say more of the same. It looked like they show like a few new features here and there, but it looks like if you liked that first game, this is going to be that and then some. I always think it's Mario. I always say they're like the Pixar gaming, but like the animation styles looks great with the mix of them and the Rabbids. Like it looks like a fun world. I was pretty happy because all I got is Mario Rabbids and Forspoken rest of the year. So I really need to. Kirkland right now is sitting pretty, but I just need a couple of bombs for him and a good ones for me. And this one it reviewed not too bad last time. And I think what was smart with this one is because they're with Ubisoft. But I still think there's enough people in the gaming community that don't understand that it's like a Ubisoft partnership. So they just think this is a Mario game. So it almost just kind of counts as like this is a first, like it's a third party or whatever. What do they call it? Partnership? What was the hell? The partner showcase. So technically it's a partner showcase. But when you have that Nintendo game on there, it's kind of like that Spider-Man, Sony, Disney thing where it's a good combo.
Yeah, I mean, Mario's a name that Nintendo wants to release a Mario game every single year, even if it's a small, like, Mario 20... What was it? It was because it wasn't 99. Oh, my God. What did they call that again? Like, when they had their Battle Royale Mario? But anyway, they always want to release something every year.
They had a Battle Royale Mario?
Yeah, they did, which is no longer exists. Like, they killed it after a few months, even though it was still, like, people were still playing it. But, yeah, I think it was free, so you should have checked it out. You cannot play it anymore, so that sucks.
Holy crap!
What did you search it? What was it called? I'm forgetting the number that was on it.
That's what I'm looking for. Mario Bros. 35.
35, right? Because it was the 35th anniversary, right? That's why it's such a random number. But yeah, it was interesting. But anyway, my point being that they want to release something with a Mario game every year, and they didn't have anything to come out this year. I don't think, other than. You could say, like, I guess Mario Strikers counts as well, but I think this is like I think they count this in that echelon of like this is a big Mario release for them. Yeah. I think they see it that way.
I agree. It's in the fall. It'll get a good showcase here. It'll be advertised a lot. So no, I agree. But no, I'm learning everything or new things from this podcast. October 1st, 2020, 35 discontinued. And people seemed like they weren't too happy about it. People liked the game. So
people loved it, and it didn't really make sense why they turned it off. This is like timed where they had, you remember how like Mario 3D All-Stars, like the Mario 64 Sunshine and Galaxy bundle that they released on Switch, how that had like a limited lifespan. Like this was like Mario's death day. It was like that went offline the same day as Mario 35, and like randomly that Fire Emblem game that released too. So yeah, I don't know why
I'll
they
never
did that.
understand that.
Very puzzling stuff. Maybe they'll bring it back someday, but probably not. But yeah, as for Mario Rabbids, like I said, I did pick up the first one, and I've played maybe 5 or 6 hours of it, and that's why I think I'm leaning towards not picking up this one, at least at launch, for a couple reasons. One is that I just got to go back and finish that first one. There's also, I got it like as a bundle. The first one had like this Donkey Kong DLC, so I really want to check that part out too. Ooh. So I got to go back and finish that game because I was really enjoying it, and I just fell off for whatever reason. And it is a very simple game to go pick up and play, and I'm a huge fan of turn-based tactics games, so it like works. It is more simple. It is more kid-friendly, obviously, with the Rabbids and Mario in there, but it is still like pretty fun and something different in terms of the way you move around these maps. And yeah, I think the other thing is like I said, the other one, how it dropped down to $20. I know the same thing is going to happen here. Like Ubisoft definitely discounts their game. That's why this is why an argument people are always mad that Nintendo doesn't discount their first-party stuff, and they set that precedent. You know, like might as well get it at launch because it's never going to go below like 15% off. But it's kind of the opposite here, where it's like I know this game's going to drop at some point, so maybe I'll just pick it up down the road when it's a bit cheaper. If it's a game I'm not necessarily confident that I'm going to play to completion. But going through the gameplay here, few new things stand out. One that's actually pretty big deal for me is that Bowser's like a playable character and you can get him on your team. I think that's really fun. Just, Bowser's always just kind of been playable in Smash and the sports games and kart, but not really in games like this or like the platforming kind of games. So I'm always down to get Bowser in there as a playable character. So I think that's cool. I'm excited to see his weapons and stuff like that. Since this is also kind of galaxy themed, at least in terms of the title, I feel like the levels aren't really that same galaxy, like planet level design. So I don't think they're really going for that part of it. But it seems like everyone has like a Luma companion with them, which I'm guessing I'm guessing they affect your stats in some way. I wasn't exactly sure how they affect the gameplay, but that seems like something that's new as well. And then I just also wanted to praise like the environments. Like the levels look really fun. They had like another demonstration today, another like 6-minute trailer where they just showed off like an extended gameplay thing. And so I checked that out and like, man, like the levels just looks like so much fun. Like the first game definitely was like, okay, here's Mushroom Kingdom.
Yes,
here's like these places
classics
you've been to before. And I feel like they're doing the same thing here where it's like, okay, now you get a beach level, you get a snow level. But it's like it's a classic Mario Beach level, but they change like 25% of it to be something different, have a different feel to it. And it's really working for me. And like the environments look great. So I got to say, like, this trailer was like, man, I really want to pick this game up, but I know that for my wallet's sake, I should probably just hold off for now. But it does look really good. And I'm glad it's coming out this year.
Yeah, and I'm excited to see how this one does, because obviously the first one did well enough for a sequel. So I'm excited to see also, like, not trying to think too far in the future, but just if they can even do another installment, because now with the Switch being even bigger than it is now, because this one came out when it was early Switch days, right? I feel like the first year or two. Yeah, so I feel like there's even more people now, and I feel like this is a game that will, a lot of parents, if they're looking and they don't know and they see a lot of these $80 Mario games, and some families, on an income might need, hey, I want a Mario kid for my game, or I want a Mario game for my kids, but I don't want to shell out as much money as those ones, but this reasonable price, I think it could do quite well in the future. So
I'm trying to see if the first game's on sale, because I know the Switch just is currently doing like a big summer sale. Okay, it's not, so that's probably a tactical thing of like they don't want people seeing that and just go and pick up that right away. It'll probably go on discount again though. I don't know if it will before this new game comes out, but definitely check out that original game. It's pretty fun. Yeah, moving on. Actually, let's maybe take another ad break here and we'll come back and get through the rest of this direct. We are back. Next game, another indie game called Railgrade. Interesting title. Coming out this fall. This is a very interesting looking game to me. It's kind of like a train building management game, but it seems very much like heavy on the puzzler side of it, where it's less simmy in terms of actually building what would be a logical train track in a world, and more about like, okay, how can I make it so my tracks aren't bumping into each other, and I need to get from point A to point B. I need to build these other side components on there. But when they kind of later on in the trailer, when they showed, I guess, what these levels could look like when you're maybe 20, 30 minutes in, and there's like train tracks everywhere going every direction and trains going all over the place, I thought it looked like a ton of fun. Like I was like, shit, I think this is like potentially a day one for me. I'm guessing it's going to be on the cheaper side, but I'm super into this. This looks like a lot of fun.
This one I'd want to watch you play or watch someone else play, because when you talk about those trains going on so much, like that was hurt my brain. Like, see how like the management you must have to be focusing on all these trains at the same time doing things. Man, that's a lot. It just reminded me of Inception when they flipped the world and you got like the two worlds like the exact same.
Definitely.
That's what this trailer felt like to me, and I was like, wow. And then this is another game too. I'm excited to just see like. There's definitely a market for it, but you just wonder, it's a smaller game. That's probably why, but it's just like, it's a game that I would never thought would be out there. And at first I thought it was going to be more like a train, tycoon simulator of like, build your perfect railroad. But no, it looks much, much more advanced than that.
Yeah, I'm trying to find a price on this, but it's not up on the eShop yet. So not going to be able to find that out in the moment. But yeah, I could see myself picking this one up. I also got to say, like, the music was super good. I don't even know how to describe it, but it was not what you would expect for a game like this, but it was like really working for me. So I just feel like that could really fit in too, where I feel like this is a game where you really get into a flow state of like trying to keep up with things, and you're just like, okay, you're trying to keep everything, and like if someone talks to you or asks you a question while you're playing, you're like, you just lose all your focus, and you're like, shit, I lost what I was doing. Messed up, I got to load my save or something like that. But I feel like the music will help you just like get into this vibe and like zoom in on this world and just get
felt
totally lost in the sauce for a half an hour playing this game.
Yeah, it felt like the music they play on Ultimate Beastmasters and back in the day, like
Yeah.
those reality competition shows where it's really intense. Like, look at him now, the sweat's dripping down. Yeah.
So that's Railgrade. I'm excited for that one. I'm curious what you think about this next one, RPG Time, The Legend of Right. This is coming out in August of this year. Cool idea where essentially it looks like you're playing kind of from perspective of a kid who's at his desk in his room, and you're on a piece of graph paper. You're like drawing out this adventure, this RPG, and then you're playing through this campaign. And then I think the cool part to it is that there's this element where like at some point maybe you need to do some calculations. So you just pull like a real calculator that's also on your desk, and you'll use that, or you're grabbing like this real pencil. So I don't know. I thought obviously the art style and the design idea of it is really cool. But yeah, what did you think of this one?
Yeah, the biggest thing I was looking into is because like I never know with these games when they preview. Is it like not that it's a kid's game, but is it a game that's going to be good for a younger audience, or is it just that younger audience aesthetic but for older? Because at first like okay, and as the kids grow up, they start to ask about these things, look at that. So I looked at this like, oh, is this something that could be for them? But as the trailer went on more, it looked very much more like advanced, like you said with the calculator and stuff. So I thought like it could be like a fun idea, but I would just wonder if it'd be something that you'd play for a little bit and not really go back to. You know, you kind of be done with it and be like, okay, that was a fun concept, or if it's something really addicting. So I'd have to see some gameplay cycles. It wasn't enough because in this section here that we are, this is like, it's like quick, like 30 seconds for a bunch of stuff. And most of the stuff was not really hitting me too much. And this was one that it looked cool, but again, I would need more to see if it'd be, you know, worth investing or even have some interest in it.
Yeah, while I do like the idea of it, I'm in that same boat as you, where I just don't know gameplay wise, story wise, if it's gonna like draw me in. It's one of those games where I could see myself playing it for like one session and then bouncing. So I don't know if it's gonna be worth the pickup here, but I'm curious to hear what people think of it, and that is coming out soon. So I think out of all these, like there was a couple like released today kind of things, but I think that this one is maybe a good surprise of like here's an August thing. It's coming up pretty soon, so that's cool. Next up is Sonic Frontiers. So notoriously, I'm not a Sonic guy. In fact, I forgot that the second movie has released. Apparently, there's a TV show happening, all this stuff. But yeah, I'm just not a fan of Sonic stuff. We've seen this game. This is the open world Sonic game. We've seen it a few times now. Now that we've seen quite a bit of gameplay, and like I don't know if you heard any people who had like preview access to the game talk about it on any podcasts or anything like that, but people have got their hands on it at this point. But what are you thinking of this game?
Well, before I continue that, how had the reactions been? Because I'd not seen people got their hands on it. How have they been so far?
It seems like I would say mixed. It seems like people who are
lukewarm.
Really big, it seems like people who are really big Sonic fans are into it because it's something kind of new and different.
Yeah.
But then people who aren't are like, well, there's not too much here for me to dig into, and it seems like, like the movement's pretty good, but like the combat's kind of lame, or like there's just not a whole lot to do in the open world. So I would say not glowing reviews, but for Sonic fans, it seems like it will hit as like, okay, finally an open world 3D Sonic game, finally getting that after all these years, and it seems like for those big Sonic fans that will land for them.
Yeah, it's tough because I am a Sonic fan. I wouldn't put myself in the big fan category, but I was a fan of the games. I have, been watching the animated show with the kids again. And I've seen the movies, and those are fine things. So I go back and forth. This has a date, right? Isn't it December or something, or somewhere around there?
I think they've just said this holiday. Maybe if they have put a date on it, it's definitely in December, but I think they've just said holiday.
So I don't think I would be buying day one. It's a game that at one point I would have been, because I think that I've seen enough of it that I do like it, and also is the doubleness of the kids love Sonic. Like we have a good time at the movies, they have a good time at the show, so there'd be that fun aspect of I could play it and kind of have them like adventure along with me and stuff like that. So I will definitely be buying this game at some point. It's just a question of when. If it is December, I don't even know if I'll be buying new games, and if I would, it'd probably be the Callisto project, right? So it's like there's already games kind of slotted for, or Protocol, thank you. So there's already, that's the sequel, Callisto project. Yeah. So there's games where it's like, okay, December is usually a busy month for me with Christmas, but it's like if I'm buying a game, probably going to be that one. So Sonic I will buy, even if this is like a 7 out of 10 game. That's exactly what I'm looking for. I'm not looking for this to reinvent the wheel. And if it sounds like that, everything I've seen so far, it looks like a good time. It looks like a game I could put on for an hour, just have some fun. So I'm actually pretty excited for this one at some point to get my hands on it.
Next up, Disney Dreamlight Valley.
What the hell?
I just need to hear your take on this one. So this one, they've shown it off before.
I'd never seen it till now.
Okay. Yeah, I think they showed it in the Nintendo Direct that was in, when was that? March, maybe April, whatever that was. The one I had Kirkland on for. I think we talked about it then. Perhaps, or maybe it was last year. I don't even remember. But anyway, this is kind of like Sims meets Disney, where you're like playing as people and you're in this Disney world and you're talking with your best friends. The puzzling thing for me, they said it's coming out September 6th, but they said it's coming out in early access, which like is a very Steam. It's like that's a Steam does that all the time. Switch often has demos for games, but I can't recall ever seeing them actively release an early access game on their console. So I thought this was pretty strange to not just say it's a live service game that's going to have frequent updates, but instead like, no, this is not a finished product. This is an early access title. So that was puzzling to me, but as a big Disney guy that you are, does this do anything for you?
Well, now, and see, I had forgot. I honestly think I missed this early access part because I was still I had not seen it before. I was scratching my head the entire time this was going on. I do appreciate what I want to shout out. You can see at the very end of the trailer when it's the last shot of whoever character you're playing and all the characters are around you. They have a point of little Buzz, like he's the size of a toy. As a Toy Story guy, I really appreciate that because it's like keeping true to the world, right?
Sure, yeah.
And this is kind of interesting because it's like a mix of Disney and Pixar because sometimes they kind of go one route or the other. We saw this with Infinity, and it's funny, and I feel like maybe the closest they've gone, I still haven't even played Kingdom Hearts, but like the closest they've gone to capturing the world of the magic of Disney in a video game was maybe Kingdom Hearts, but they've never found a way, because Disney is massive. I'm not talking, like, forget Star Wars, Marvel, forget their, like, other side company stuff. Just the brand of Disney and the fantasy fictional characters, it's massive. There's adults that still go to Disneyland all the time if they don't have kids just because they love being there, stuff like that. So there's for sure, you want, like, playing this video game, like, there's for sure an audience. I just don't know. Yeah, little Buzz right there. I just don't know. I don't know. So here's the thing though, with it being early access, the counterpoint is if this game is, like you said, live service and it is free, I could see people that can get people to jump in. I don't see Disney fans really doing this because I still feel like if they want to do this, like it sounds cheesy, but like that's what Disney World is for. Now, can you cook with Ratatouille? No, but you can have. That's what this is pretty much. Like you're like they show a person, they're picking their outfit, and just like stuff you could buy at Disneyland. Yeah. That moment where, and this is where I thought it went over the cuckoo's nest, was when you can take a selfie with Ursula. I don't know what the hell is going on there, but again, that's just Disney World. You can do that. You can go to Disney World, find the people dressed in the costume, get a selfie with them. So this almost just feels like Disney World, the walking simulator in a way, because you're like a little bit more fantastical, right? Because you're actually interacting with the characters, but it's a game that like I want to fire up just to see like how ridiculous it is. I could not believe this was a thing, and it doesn't look. It looks, I don't know, 360 PS3 era, so it doesn't look. Definitely. I'm sure it was not made for a lot. It looks cheap. But to me, it's a head scratcher. And I just cannot wait for people to play this. And if it's early access and free, I might have jumped in there. But even then, I just would not feel dumb, but just feel like I could be doing so much more things with my time than this. But I don't know. I'm very curious of how they got to this point of this being an idea, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's just very much like a sellout kind of game in terms of its design stuff. I like some of the ideas here, but for me it's just like when they show like that fishy mini game is quite savage. When they just show like the actual gameplay sequences, like just walking around does not look good.
No.
They show like a very quick moment where you're like placing a house, and so it's like if you're like building a theme park, I know you're not doing that, but if you're building like this area, like that could be cool, but it just seems like everything in this game is going to be half-assed. And so it's just a bunch of half-assed systems in one. Just not like, I just don't know what the hook is for it. So yeah, I don't know. I don't think I'm a big enough Disney Pixar fan to go for this. If they were throwing like all sorts of other Disney stuff like Marvel and Star Wars in there and like throw Home Alone in there, like, okay, now we're talking.
Kevin running around.
Yeah. If it's just This is definitely a pass for me. Now, as you mentioned, if it is a free-to-play game, I'll play it for 15 minutes just to say I did.
Yeah.
But that's about the extent I think I'd go with this one. And I'm curious to see what early access means for Switch, and I hope it's. I guess. Well, I don't know. I guess I'm not opposed to it if it becomes a thing that happens more often. I don't think it would happen for Nintendo first-party games or anything. But
yeah,
it is an interesting thing to happen. Moving on, Live, the next game here. This is one of those. What do they call it? HD 2D games in the art style of like Triangle Strategy and Octopath Traveler, but this is more of a classic JRPG. This one we've seen before, and they're just kind of reminding you that it's coming out at the end of July, and that there is a demo available now that you can play the first or 3 of the first chapters, and that progress will carry over to your complete game. So I'm very excited for this game. I love the art style. I love the hook of the story, and you can just choose to jump into these different timelines, and it's not like, okay, I go through one timeline, then the story progresses me to the next. Like, you would just have 7 or 8 different timelines, and you can just pick to go into whatever one you want from the beginning. If you're like, okay, I'm getting kind of bored of Western world, you can jump out, go to the far future, all that kind of stuff. So I think I've already decided this is like a day one purchase for me. It's already up on our GeekVerse calendar schedule that I'm going to be doing a review. I don't know who's going to join me for that, but we'll find out. But yeah, the demo is great. They did this for Triangle Strategy as well, where they let you play the first 3 chapters, and then that carried over the main game. So I did download it. I haven't checked it out yet, but I'm sure I will in the coming days. Very excited for this game, and yeah, it's coming out pretty soon. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was happy to see what it was because I saw it on the GeekVerse calendar, and I was like, because it's a different type of title, but yeah, there's some fun stuff. There's there's one guy in particular looking very Yu-Gi-Oh, like he has like his shirt's off, he has abs, but then the hair's like and everything like that. I really like the little like the white ball guy with the glasses and the hat. That guy, he looks like tons of fun. I don't know what he's gonna be doing, but yeah, I nothing that I'll be playing, but I appreciate the art style and stuff like that.
Nice. Skipping ahead, let's say, I guess, the Portal Companion Collection, which is a compilation of the first 2 games, or the only 2 games, rather. Well, actually, now there's a 3rd game, the Aperture Lab game, that was like a Steam Deck exclusive thing. So, anyway.
Steam Deck.
But the first 2 games, here they are out today on the Switch. So, we knew about this. We knew that this was happening. It's cool. It's always nice to have a out today kind of thing in there. So that's fun. Have you ever played the Portal games? I don't think I know the answer to this.
No, never have, because were they mostly just PC games, right? I feel like they were maybe on Xbox, but
yeah. So famously, the Orange Box was like when Valve first started releasing games on console. So the Orange Box had Portal 1 in it, and then I think by the time Portal 2 came out, it at launch came out on consoles as well. So they are console games now. But yeah, Valve always has more of a PC aesthetic to them. But yeah, you should definitely pick these games. Like, these are 2 of the best games ever made. Both of them are fantastic. Portal 1's like a short and sweet experience, like 4 hours. Portal 2 is like what a lot of people say is like one of the best video game stories of all time. Has great co-op. Fantastic game. So you should definitely pick these up. I once again don't know if Switch is the best place to play them in
I would not
terms of frame
do that.
rates
No.
and stuff. But they are pretty lo-fi in terms of how much is going on in the environments and stuff. So hopefully they run well over on the Switch. But yeah, definitely worth playing if you haven't before.
One day I'll try to check it off. I've seen it. It's always looked impressive, the first Portal. So at some point in my life, it'll be crossed off.
Sounds good. The next game, I'm curious what you think about this one. Harvestella is the name of this game, coming out November 4th. This is a life sim RPG.
Not set in Disney World. Not set in Disney World.
No, but it looks very similar to that game.
Yeah.
This is very much in that Harvest Moon side of things. I don't know. I think this is like, for some people, this will definitely do it for them. But to me, like, the animation quality just was quite poor. The just quality of the visuals wasn't there. So I feel like there's a lot of other games in this genre I'd go to before this one. And I also hate the title. I just don't like Harvestella.
No, that's not.
I want that to be the last time I have to say that word.
Harvestella. Yeah. No, I'm kind of with you on all fronts where look-wise, I feel like there's a certain time where when you switch generations and you get further in the gaming, you will kind of excuse certain type of lack of animation for a little while, but then you hit a certain point where you go, I just can't go back to playing something that looks like that. Now, if it's an art style and it's specifically made to look like that and it's kind of refined and looks really stylish, then yes. But with this, it kind of had that Disney, not as bad as the Disney Village game, but it had that feel of this seems like a game of another generation. Or it seems like the Pac-Man game where it's like, oh, we've just remastered it so you can play it on these new consoles. So no, nothing that caught my eye. Then other than, yeah, it was a stupid name, but nothing like you said. If I was to get in this genre, which I don't think I am, there's other games I would look for to do that.
There's a big audience for these games, so I'm sure. Of
course,
it'll find its people. And then the last announcement of the show was funny because this kind of mirrors one of the announcements at the Xbox showcase, but the Persona is finally coming to the Switch, which people have been begging for years. So this is Persona 5 Royal is coming out in October. And then Persona 4 Golden and Persona 3 are coming at a later date. So I'm guessing not this year, but maybe they are, and they just don't have those dates ironed down yet. Travis, I doubt you're going to be playing these ones. But to me, what's cool about this is that, Joker was added to Smash Ultimate. He was the first, I guess the second DLC character, I think, to Smash Ultimate. And his just like you could not play a game that had him as a playable character like on the Switch console. So I like to see that now you can like play his game on the Switch. I think that's a fun pairing. And for me, I'm just so scared of how long these games take to beat, which is why they are so very low on my backlog, even though I do want to play them at some point. But yeah, just 100 hours, 120 for Persona 5 Royal. No thanks. I don't want to sign up for that. So even though like I'm sure after like 20 hours in I'll be hooked, I don't want to do that to myself, though. I'd rather play 20 other games in that amount of time.
Yeah, it's a problem because I think we talk about the Xbox where everyone I've talked to that has played it, enjoys games, loves games, says all these things where it's like, I'd even like to dabble my feet into. But it's one of these things of if you dabble your feet into, either you're going to love it and then you have to push aside a bunch of other games, or you're just going to play it for a little bit and never come back to it. And then you're going to get into go, what was I doing? I feel like it's a game that you really have to sit with. Now, I will say through my friends and through reviewers over the years, I feel like the term, man, I wish Persona was on the Switch. If I were to have a nickel every time I heard that, I'd be a millionaire because people just like that's the perfect game for it. Is a game where you're spending so much time on it, but if you're busing, training, but like if you're just like in the back, like if you have your Switch and you're traveling, you got time to kill. Always said, I would love to be able to sink some hours in here. Like if you're stuck at an airport. So I think that's great. Yeah, sure. It's a little later because I feel like that would admit that type of kind of the heat of Persona when it was starting up. But maybe there's enough people that go, you know what? I'd love to replay that again. And now I could do it with Switch. It's been enough years. So I think it's great for, people that are fans because they want it on Xbox. But more specifically, I heard Switch all the time. So didn't do anything for me as like to get me hype. I'm like, okay, that makes sense because I've heard this demanded for years. So.
Yeah, and once again, I think the hybrid nature of the Switch just works perfectly for these games in terms of having more down moments or just a lot of grinding to do, things like that. So it seems like, just if you're chilling on the couch, watching TV, could be a good game to put on. And then when there's the bigger story beats or the big dungeons, you put that on full screen. So it just like is perfect in that way. So yeah, I won't be picking these up, but I'm sure it'll sell like super, super well. Yeah. Hopefully this means that Persona 6 or whatever else is coming next comes out on the Switch at launch.
Yeah.
And hopefully on Xbox as well. Like I think it'd be cool if we see this series kind of branch out and not just be exclusive to like PlayStation at launch now, and maybe we can gain an even bigger fan base. And I mean, I know the Shin Megami Tensei games are essentially like spin-offs of Persona or some from the same team and all that, and that new one was a Switch exclusive. So I know that there is a partnership there of some way, even if it's at this point maybe different studios working on those two games. But yeah, this was a good way to close out the show, I felt.
Yeah, I think it's a strong one. I saw people talking about it and happy about it. So, and yeah, no, that's the most interesting thing is, the next installments, what will happen with those down the line. So,
yeah. Travis, that was everything for the Nintendo Direct Mini Showcase Partner Showcase. I was doing so well until the very end here.
To the very end, took you down.
Yeah, a few highlights. Yeah, I'm really excited for Live. That was even maybe more of a reminder. But like, yeah, Railgrade looks cool. Blanc, like some cool indie games in there, and the Battle Network game. So yeah, some fun stuff in there, and I think a pretty solid mini partner showcase. So many words. And I'm excited to see what Nintendo's got cooking because, Live Alive is the last Nintendo game that I'm like for sure picking up this year. And then, I mean, just some of these other indies, but who knows? Maybe some of these are on other consoles as well. So don't know for sure. But I think Live Alive might be my last big one for the year.
Yeah, I think it was a good solid NDMPS. I think that was a good showcase for that. Yeah,
nice.
There's too many letters there. You can't. It's not naturally flow. But
roll,
Disney Village, huge contender for me. I'm just happy I know that this thing
Disney
exists.
Dreamlight Valley, Travis, come on, get it right.
Oh, is it true? Oh, catchy title too. I thought it was Village, but I think it said something about control your village or something. But
control your village.
Hopefully next time Nintendo does Direct, I'm looking for some of those bigger ones. But this was a good one nonetheless. As far as just kind of, I think if it was longer than what it was, I'd have more issues with it. But this was like just a nice little. Here's what's coming.
Anything else you want to mention today before we sign off here?
No, I don't think so. I'm excited for the fall. We got some fun games coming up and everything like that. Soon will be the fun game of the awards, like conversations, but then just the actual show and stuff. So, like you said, August a bit more quieter, but soon fall's coming up, and that's always a good time because you get games coming out, so you get reviews and sales numbers and conversations and stuff like that. And waiting any day to see. My big question is, we just get sooner and sooner to God of War. I'm just very interested because I feel like
rumors a swirl today on that one.
Yeah, well, I don't know why Corey dropped that GIF. That's a weird. You saw him drop that right on Twitter. That's a weird.
I didn't see the GIF. I just saw that I don't know. I don't even know what I saw. I just saw people talking about it.
Well, it's because he dropped a GIF. He dropped the John Wick. Oh yeah, I'm thinking I'm back. Which I'm like, okay. That's an interesting GIF to drop when every day people are like,
"It's troll that guy."
Yeah. But still, it's like that's an interesting one to draw when everyone's like, "We don't believe you. We don't believe you." And again, like it still could come out, but I feel like we're getting soon to that point where you gotta put something out as far as official, because then you gotta start marketing this thing. So I'm always curious as far as the Sony realm was, even if I don't get it day one, what they're doing with that. So
yeah. No, it's been a great year for games. I'm excited for that Game of the Year season. I have some big plans for what we're gonna switch it up this year in terms of Game of the Year stuff. So that's exciting. But yeah, that's about it for today. We'll be back next week. We'll be back in a few days with. Well, I actually don't know exactly what day Automata is dropping, but that's coming back as well.
In the next 2 weeks. There you go.
Exactly. Yeah. Look forward to that good gaming content and other content just on the main feeds. Thank you everyone for listening, and we will see you again next time. Later.